Trying to sort my camera out. Okay, that's better. Okay, now I don't think anyone's on live yet, but I'm just going to warm up for handstand push-ups. So opening up the upper back first, making sure thoracic mobility is open as much as possible. So I'm just going to start on the bottom rib, hold onto the head, and then open up to as much extension as I can. Do 2 or 3 repetitions there. If you are doing this type of movement, just make sure that you're not compensating too much through the low back or through the neck. You should feel the movement where the roller is. And then I'm just going to move down slowly. I haven't done any warm-up this morning. So I'm just going to test how the body feels. Go into some easier variations of handstand push-ups, and then hopefully work up to like 90 degree, see how we go, see what questions we get. So it doesn't feel too bad. So I normally do thoracic extension, a hang maybe. I normally swap those 2 about, depending on where I am, what I have. So hanging, obviously, passive hang is really, really good for us. Everyone's doing it now, which is fantastic. So just opening up. This isn't ideal because can't straighten the legs all the way. But the biggest thing is making sure that my hands are nice and close together and that you're in a passive position. When we hang, we don't want to be hanging like this. We want to make sure that we're in that full passive position. Unless you have any shoulder pain. If you have shoulder pain there, just slightly active can often just create a little bit more space and not hurt the shoulder so much. But ideally, passive position, going as deep as you can, 30, 60 seconds. Because I've done the foam roller, I won't do too long. Okay, so I'm just going to go into some wrist warm up first. Make sure I'm happy to handstand. This is normally quite quick for me because I'm so frequently on my hands. So just peeling through the fingers, through the palms, different directions. Just see how that feels. That feels pretty good actually. And then while I'm doing this, I'm also going to get into my hamstrings and my calves, just to go into more like a down dog type position. So I'm going to warm this up really quickly. If you've got longer, obviously do more flexibility work. Now I look back, I haven't done a live session since June, and the goal was to do it once a week, so that didn't work. But now kids are back at school and I'm working from home 90% of the time now. Live session once a week should be good to go. Okay, that feels pretty good. So let's just warm up the bottom of the push-up now. So I'm just going to warm up the bottom of the standard push-up just to open the chest up. So externally rotate elbows by the sides, getting comfortable in this position. So chin, chest, like just touching the floor, but no weight in there, moving back and forth. This should be really comfortable, especially if you're working handstand push-ups. This should be a piece of cake to hold this position. If it's not, it could be flexibility through the pecs, through the chest, or just lack of conditioning in the position. I'll take my hat off for a second. That's got my mic on so I can drink my coffee without it gurgling down the mic. Okay, I've got a question. So what drills would you recommend to take a 5 to 7 second handstand to a 30 second? So basically you just need to increase your window of balance of your handstand. So wall drills are going to be your friend. Most people come away from the wall too fast. So I recommend that you at least warm up or make a little bit of a circuit between a heel pull, a toe pull and a freestanding hold, and then assess where you're at. If you're not nowhere near the freestanding, then do more heel pulls, toe pulls. But if you keep that little circuit going, then the balance window is going to get bigger, like doing these. So kicking up to the wall, legs squeeze together one segment, make sure your focal position's between your hands somewhere, push through the fingers and reach up at the same time. Heels should come off, hold for a few seconds, go back again. So you should be able to do that for repetitions. If you can't, this needs to be your number one drill to work. to start to work that overbalance position of the handstand. If that's comfortable, turn around, same thing. But now for the underbalance, so your toe pull position, open the shoulders, and now close the shoulders. Shoulders go past the fingers, toes slide down the wall, so you come off, push up to your handstand, back to the wall again. Now this is probably going to be impossible at the moment if you have a 5 to 7 second hold, but this is the one you really need to work on to go from 10 seconds to a 30-second hold. And that, if you get very, very good at that drill, it'll take you all the way up to 60-second plus handstand pretty quickly. But that drill is normally the one that scares people. We rely on the wall too much. We've struggled with the position, just getting everything in the right place to balance and hold the handstand, and you just either fall too far towards overbalance or go back. But just really get good at that position. And then I go, so heel pull, toe pull, and then just test your freestanding kick up. So spend, a minute playing around, see if you can hold your freestanding, have a rest, do some stretching, and then go back to heel pull, toe pull, freestanding. This is a really good way of doing it. Obviously, if you're freestanding, you just back splat and not spend any time in your freestanding hold, concentrate on the heel pulls first, get some quality repetitions there, and then turn around and do toe pull. Hey buddy, good to see you from Brazil. That's awesome. Malaysia, awesome. Daily drills, that's awesome. Okay, so now I'm just gonna, that worked perfectly. So now I've warmed up my handstand. So obviously when you're working handstand push-ups, we need to work up the, the top of the position, which is the handstand. We need to condition the bottom position. So the bottom position is when we create a triangle. So position-wise, I'm just going to go into like a crow balance now. So a frog balance, so externally rotate, so create a little bit more external rotation, a stronger position. Hands a little bit wider than my handstand position. And then I'm just going to take my head down towards the floor and back up again. So take the hat off. So crow position, and I'm going to take my head down towards the floor. If I can touch the head to the wall, to the floor comfortably, I'm going to go up to there's my bottom of my handstand push-up, and then I'm going to come back down to my crow, lift up the head, and then come back again, and just do a couple of repetitions there and see how that feels. So getting very comfortable with that seesaw, what the hips and the shoulders are doing, are really going to help you in all of your handstands, but really in the handstand push-ups as well, as learning to move the hip and the shoulder at the same time, opposite to each other, and that makes the handstand push-up 1,000 times easier. So doing movements like that, they look pretty easy compared to a handstand push-up, but they're so good to understand that connection. And it will take you from, if you've got one handstand push-up, it can take you to 5 handstand push-ups just by understanding that positioning. Okay, and then next is just do some pike push-ups. So pike push-ups are normally the entry level to be able to go up and down out of your movement. So the concentric and the eccentric. There's obviously lots of different variations of the eccentric we can do, which is the down only. But the pike is nice and comfortable for most people. Now, flexibility could be a challenge here. If it is, just bend the knees in that position. Don't make it so it's uncomfortable, but it's a good way of working your hamstrings and calves at the same time. You'll have to play around with this distance. So some people like to be closer to their hands. Some people like to be further away. Just don't be here, because if we're here, it's going to look like a standard push-up. We want to try and get the torso, so it's going down the same pathway as much as possible to the real freestanding handstand push-up. So shoulders are open, shoulders come forwards, bend the elbows come in, head touches the floor, makes that triangle, come back out, open the shoulders again. So that should be pretty comfortable to go through that pathway. Now I recommend with all these video from the side and see what you're actually doing instead of what you think you're doing. But that triangle position between the hands and the head, again, is really, really important. Okay, breather, another sip of my coffee. Rosie is here. She's in the messy corner, laid down on her bed. 39 degrees in Perth today, so it's going to be a hot one. So hence I don't need that much warm up. Okay, so we have pike push-ups. Let's make the pike push-ups a little bit harder. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to do a pike push-up, but it's going to be an entry into a shoulder stand. So if you watch much of my content, you'll know that I love shoulder stands. I think they're one of the most important, I say basic positions, but they're quite challenging, but like foundations of all your calisthenics movements. And it should be a home position. So being able to hold this shoulder stand position, whether it's on 2 P-bars, boxes, one of those plyo wooden boxes that my laptop's on at the moment, or the amazing IKEA steps, just making sure that you can hold this position. So ideally there, notice the angle. So feet are back, head and shoulders are forwards, arms are into your side. So that should be comfortable. That should be like a headstand position, forearm stand position. If you hit that sweet spot in your balance, you should just be able to stay there, have a conversation, eat your dinner in that position. So when we do our pike push-ups, we can play with going in and out of that position. And it's also the bottom of the deficit handstand push-up. So once you've got your floor handstand push-up, it's good to work towards the deficit handstand push-up, which is coming down to this position. So hands there at the bottom, with a normal handstand push-up, we're only going to there. So the deficit takes us all the way down to that position. So it's really good to work towards that for full range and to work to harder skills. So with the pike, what we can do is we can start to play with entering that shoulder stand, or we could just look at it as a deficit pike push-up. Now, my feet are now below my hands, which is good and bad at the same time. So flexibility-wise, it's going to be much different. And also loading of the hands is a lot less, because at the moment I've got way more weight into my hands, my feet. So there's going to be a big transfer of weight as I go into the shoulder stand from the feet to the hands. Where if I have my feet up this high, then there's going to be more of equal weight, if not more weight in the hands from the start. So pros and cons for that. Just have a play around. You should be able to do both. Try to go past. Okay, so now I'm just going to go up, around the upper back and shoulders, put weight into the hands, come down to that shoulder stand. Now I could lift up to my shoulder stand, come back down, push back out again. Or I could come down, bring one leg up into the shoulder stand and push back out again. Or I could do no entry to the shoulder stand and just practice that deficit, eccentric and concentric back out again. So that's a really, really good one. Obviously, height of the box is going to make a difference. Height of your feet, flexibility, positioning, how far apart you have the feet, whether you use P-bars. You can do a similar thing on these bars. Another necessity or item that you should have at home is these bars. You can do something similar there. The only downside of this is you're dictated by the width of the bars, but you can come forwards into that position pretty similar and back out again. It's a bit funky trying to hold shoulder stand there, but it's good, especially if you're going to work P-bars for your handstand push-ups. Guys, keep any questions coming as well. I need to rest. The questions work well as the rest. Okay, so we've played with the bottom of the handstand push-up now. We've introduced the pike push-ups to be able to go up and down, and then I now want to warm up my shoulder position for the handstand push-up. This is really, really important for handstands in general. So it's that toe pull position that I just done, but I ideally want to be able to do this away from the wall. So if I kick up to handstand, so there's my freestanding handstand start position for the handstand push-up. Now I'm going to take shoulders forwards, feet backwards, and then I'm just going to come back again. So I'm open and closing the shoulder, getting me ready to start the handstand push-up down phase. But I'm just practicing that positioning of the feet and the shoulders and being able to recover in both directions. So that's really, really important to be able to do that. If you can't do it, we can go chest to wall, do that same movement. We're going to take the shoulders away, that toe pull position with the shoulders, or I can go back to wall and just do the wall leans like we use for like the press handstand. So I'll externally rotate the hands quite a bit here to make them comfortable, and I just take my shoulders to the wall, come back off again. If that feels okay, I can go a little bit further and back again. The goal is to go all the way to the wall and then pull all the way back off again. But we can dictate how intense that is by how close my hands are to the wall. So the closer my hands are to the wall, the easier it's going to be, the smaller the range of motion. The further away, the harder it's going to be. Don't go crazy, don't have your hands over here. You don't want to fall in the void that creates. But we want to be able to open and close and make that nice and strong for that start of the handstand push-up, to finish the handstand push-up, and the press as well. Elevated pike push-ups are comfortable, but only able to do 2 proper chest-to-wall handstand push-ups. How do I bridge the gap so I can do more chest-to-wall handstand push-ups? So understanding the positioning, so I would video from the side and just check that your wall handstand push-up looks correct. So many trucks going past. So when we do a wall handstand push-up, we don't want to be leaning on the wall too much. So the mistake a lot of people make is they put way too much weight into the wall, and it's like you're dragging yourself up and down. So a good example is I can do more freestanding handstand push-ups than I can chest-to-wall handstand push-ups. So we just want to make sure that when we're doing them, we're in a nice positive position. So when I come down with the movement, I've got the setup correct, the shoulders are coming forwards, I'm in a little bit of a hollow body position, and then I push back up, it's the same thing. What I don't want to do is this, and now push up like that. So see, now I'm pushing for extension. I'd literally struggle for 1 to 2 repetitions if I allow my body to collapse against the wall. So checking that we're in that more hollow body position, more flexion, less extension, less weight on the wall, is going to make the wall handstand push-ups much, much easier. Most people think they're lacking strength or lacking something, but a lot of the time it's just that positioning, and that's why their pike push-ups are way too strong compared to their wall version, because they're losing the position. And that is one of the big downsides with the pike push-ups, is that it's a closed hip position. Well, a handstand push-up, so closing the hip and doing our push-in is very different than having an open hip and doing our push-in. Most people, if I got you to do a standing overhead press, you would be way stronger than if you do a seated press, just because the everything's completely different. So we want to make it as close to the real thing as we can. So making sure that you can do those chest-to-wall push-ups with a nice positive position and not collapsing to the wall will be really good. And then just also time and attention throughout the range of motion. You need to make sure when you do your handstand push-ups that you can do slow eccentrics. So if I do a freestanding or chest-to-wall, it doesn't have to be freestanding, but I should be able to control all the way down, nice and slow, until the head kisses the floor with control. See the time and attention. I don't know what that is. That's probably 10 to 15 seconds all the way down. There was no point where I dropped. So we need to make sure that we can do that against the wall. We can do a freestanding. You're just looking for gaps. So what you could do there, if you want to increase time under tension, increase repetitions in the handstand position, is by being doing a combination of, so you do repetitions and then you go eccentrics. So that way you're increasing your time under tension per set without going up and down concentrics. The other way is to make it easier and do a walk back up the wall. So if I do come down through my eccentric there, and then I walk back up, that's easier than sliding the feet or pushing back up. So having an easier way to get back up and do more eccentric repetitions is a good way. So that was a long answer, but hopefully that helped out. How do I get straddle planche? I can hold the advanced tuck planche for like 3 seconds. Sorry for my English. Now that's perfect. So just 3 seconds isn't long enough for an advanced tuck planche to go for a straddle. So you got to think also what's the progression from a advanced tuck to a straddle, and fill the gaps. So you just need to get more time. You probably need 10 seconds in a advanced tuck to start opening up to the next progression. I normally go that with progressions, is make sure that someone can hold 10 seconds before they open up to the next stage. So 10-second tuck planche before you go to advanced tuck, 10-second advanced tuck before you go to frog. So when you do frog, so if I'm in a tight tuck position for my planche, and now I've gone to advanced tuck in that position, the next progression is starting to do that. So I'm going towards straddle. So I've now got my lower leg is increasing the lever arm, so that's more weight than it is there. And if I take my knees that way, it's going towards straddle planche. The other option is to go to a closed hip straddle planche, which is frowned upon in the calisthenics world. But I think it's a good progression to go. Just be careful that we don't do this and think we're doing a straddle planche, but we've got now feet back in that direction. So we want to go that way and then keep going towards that position. But thinking you can go from that position to that position is a massive jump. You've probably got 12 months of work to get anywhere close to that. So increase time under tension on your tuck planche. What I'll do is I'll do working sets with your tuck planche, and then open to advanced tuck planche, do working sets, and then play with some band work afterwards. So you can get into a straddle planche with a band, so you start to get used to the position. But I wouldn't do the straddle planche banded work over the other work. So we still want to do lots of tuck planche, open tuck, advanced position. Nice. Okay, so let's talk about handstand push-ups now. So what I've done so far is I've done my pike push-ups. I've done the top of the handstand. We've done the bottom of the handstand with the shoulder stand position on the bars. We've done the pike push-up, going through the eccentric and concentric. We've spoken about variations of the pike push-up. There is the ones where you put your feet up on the boxes as well. So I could do a foot-raised pike push-up, like this sort of thing. Again, I like the pike push-ups, don't get me wrong, they're really good, but I just want to get rid of the closed hip position as fast as possible. So doing some sort of combination where you're doing eccentrics with a straight body and concentrics and a pike is a good way of doing it, so you get the best of both. So you still get your repetitions, but as soon as someone can get on the wall, the better. Now let's just think about concentric only. So concentric only for handstand push-up, the easiest way for most people to do it, especially if you've already got some strength, is crow to handstand or frog to handstand. So coming from this position here, mind the clicky knees, and I'm sweating so much, it's so hot. So interestingly, the sweat on the legs makes it harder to put getting friction or grip on my arms, which is a good thing for handstand push-ups. What we don't want to happen is us to put too much weight on our legs, on our elbows from our legs like this. We actually want to have less weight, less friction here. So if I lightly have my knees on my arms, it's going to make it much easier to go up from there to my handstand. So sweaty knees is a good thing. Okay, let's talk about now going the crow up. So you'll notice that seesaw that I'm doing with my head, shoulders, hips. So I'm going to start with head and shoulders high. My hips are low, my shoulders are high. As my shoulders come down, my head comes down, my hips come up, and I throw myself, literally throw myself up to the handstand. So up and over. And notice I purposely went over to overbalance as well. So I went to the wall. So the overbalance is our friend in handstand push-ups. So that's going to help us by scooping out. That's the difference between getting 5 repetitions and 1 repetition. If I bring my feet up this way, it's going to feel really heavy. If I bring my feet up and over, I'm falling as I push, and it's much, much easier to go up. I'm going to be like half my weight doing it that way. So to start with, throw yourself up, expect to go to the wall. Obviously don't back splat or crash your head onto the floor. And then over time, you can start to do the same thing. So head and shoulders come down, hips come up, but it's a slower movement. And then I'd also practice the down and just reverse that pathway again. So that's a really nice way to start working your concentrics. Just be careful you don't pause too much. If you pause too much at the bottom, it's going to make a movement that's relatively easy compared to handstand push-ups to a movement that's actually harder than handstand push-ups. So if I do this is the hard version. So if I come down to here, now put my legs up, now I push, that's probably harder than a handstand push-up. but it's still a crow or frog to handstand. So just be careful that you're doing the right variation for you that makes sense to give you the concentric that we're aiming for. Yeah, I'm just starting the live sessions again. I was doing them a lot in like May, June time last year. But now I'm working from home most of the time. I'm going to get to do them weekly. So they're really cool. I can answer lots of questions. I need to master crow pose. Some days I get no problem. Other days I can't figure it out at all. Okay, crow, frog position, arm balance, handstand in general, all basically the same with that. So your body is very different today than it was yesterday, and it'll be different again tomorrow in terms of flexibility, strength, where your body is, what digestion, recovery from training, how much sleep you had, blah, 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 hydration, everything. So your body's going to balance different. Now, we got so good at this when we walk around on our feet, and we got so used to that variability that we don't fall over when we're on our feet, unless we've had way too much to drink. So we need to do exactly the same on our hands, whether it's a crow position, whether it's a handstand, it doesn't matter. We just need to increase our range and know how to adapt. So the day that I've trained really hard yesterday and done a full body workout, my body's really sore, I'm going to be more like this. So my body's curled over, or say I sat all day on my computer, I'm going to be curled over in this position. So suddenly I can't put my arms above my head. But the day before, I had done a big mobility session, I went to yoga or whatever it was, I made my body happier to be in a straight line. So that day, my handstand line is going to look fantastic. But the day after the training session or when we're working on my desk, my handstand line needs to look like this. So I just need to cater for what my body is doing on the day when I try and do my balance. So exactly the same with your crow position. Your positioning might be different, might be clicking knees. So on here, this might be different one day. Tomorrow it might need to be more like this. The next day it might need to be like that. The next day it might need to be like this. So what we need to do is train some variability. So that's what I like with especially the crow balance, and I teach this a lot when I do teach in a yoga studio, is I like to teach lots of crow variations or frog variations where you're moving around. Because a nice upright crow position like this is not good for doing this drill. So I need to adapt my position depending on what I'm doing. So the more variability you have, the more allow your body to relax in the different positions, the easier it's going to be. And that goes across for handstand push-ups, presses, freestanding balance, all the arm balances. So I hope that all makes sense. Okay, let's talk about the concentrics up with the handstand push-ups like I was just doing. So we've done the crow, I showed that variation, the harder variation. You can go even harder where you stay, or different, it might not be harder than that one I showed going into the headstand line position. But if I start now in my crow position here, have no seesaw, so I don't take the head and shoulders down or the hips up, and just push, I can go to handstand there, but that's obviously much harder than using that seesaw. The other way of doing that, bottom up type movement, is to go from the headstand up. So again, you're going from a position that's not moving, you haven't got that stretch reflex, you're not going down and back up again. So this is seen as being harder than the handstand push-up, but if you're super strong and don't have great balance, this could be a way of training the handstand push-up before you can do a freestanding version. So externally rotating the hands, making a triangle between the head and the hands. I'm going to go to my normal headstand position. So notice feet are back, head and shoulders forwards, and then I push. Notice I look down as I come up to grab my balance, make sure I'm balanced on the way up, find that position, and then I could come back down again through the eccentric, there and back out. So that's one way of training concentric. If you're super strong, but your balance might not be great, you can use the wall as much as you need to. Quick breather. Quick coffee. Okay, let's try now up in the ante with the concentric only. Now, these are not necessarily in order in terms of what you should be doing, because I haven't done a freestanding full handstand push-up yet, but I'm doing a movement that's much harder than that. So, but I'm just talking about that concentric sit up. So the other way of doing it is to go into a shoulder stand and see if you can push out the shoulder stand. So same, if you're super strong but your balance isn't great, use the wall. So make sure it's there if you need it. Just make sure you don't fall in this gap between the two. So I'm just going to go into my shoulder stand position, external rotation. So I've set these boxes up slightly rotated. If I had a wooden box or a wall or something, I'd do that with my hands. I'd just externally rotate instead of being like that. Make sure you're like that. Nice strong position. Normal shoulder stand, so head and shoulders forwards a bit, feet backwards, same as we've done with the headstand position as well. So there, and then I'm just going to push up. Bit of extension, wasn't great, but got up. I can cheat on the ceiling here, and then come back down, and back out. So again, great exercise if you're super strong, but hard from a strength point of view, but I can use the balance, use the wall as much as I need to. So I can even bend one leg and touch the wall as I go up and down. So a little rest, and then I'll just demo a standard 4 handstand push-up. Now obviously we can do these with wall assist if we need to, if our balance isn't great. And that's the tricky part, is trying to work out how much time you spend on balance, how much time you spend on strength. But a good way of doing it is to mix them up. So your warm-up session or your warm-up time for your handstand push-up session should be balance work if your balance isn't great. It's the best time to do it before you're fatigued. Practice your balance, practice your heel pulls, your toe pulls, your freestanding holds, and then work that into your handstand push-up session. So a bit like I've done today, I warmed up with that heel pull, toe pull demonstration into freestanding, and then I went into handstand push-up drills. Don't rush into the handstand push-up drills if your balance is lacking. We need to get enough balance work 4 to 6 times a week to make progress with your balance, so then you can get your freestanding handstand push-up. There's so many people that are super strong with the push-ups, but their balance just isn't good enough. So they struggle constantly, and they're using so much energy to try and rebalance that they've got no energy left over for the handstand push-ups, but they're actually strong enough. Okay, let's see. I'm a bit fatigued now after all that. I'm talking and training. That's a good excuse. But let's see if I can get 5 handstand push-ups. That's a good safe target. Freestanding. Notice how my position is going to change as I get tired with the more repetitions I do. I'm going to try and make them as clean as possible, but I'm guessing the last couple might get a little bit ugly, a little bit more extension, but I'm prioritizing the repetitions as opposed to prioritizing the position. So you've got to try and work out where that boundary is. So nice open position, feet back, head down. Same on the way back up. There's 1, 2, 3, just slowing it down a bit to make sure that I don't do anything silly with balance. 4, go into a bit of extension. And arms are feeling a bit heavier there. 5. So that's pretty comfortable, 5 for me. But that would be a good working set. If I just want to bang out repetitions, I could do 5, maybe 5 chin-ups, maybe weight the chin-ups if I wanted to try and get a comparison between them in terms of intensity. Rest, 2 minutes, go again. So that would be a good working set for me. I probably need about that rest, 90 seconds between the two. If I'm not doing chin-ups with it, I'm doing it separately, 30, 60 seconds rest, and I should be able to bang out more repetitions of the handstand push-ups. Guys, keep any questions coming. I need the rest. I'll demo one deficit handstand push-ups. Deficit handstand push-ups are a little bit tricky in here just because I touched the ceiling with my hands on the on the boxes. So I can't use anything higher than this. I really need this height minimum because my head will touch the floor if I go any lower. So it's not like I can use weight plates or anything. It's could be a little bit in between, but it's a good demo of positions. So same thing is going to happen with the deficit. You saw on the concentric, head and shoulders come forwards, feet come backwards. Find that happy position. I should be able to hold in the shoulder stand if I wanted to. So it should feel like a home position, and then push back out, make sure the shoulder comes back on top of the hands as the feet come back. If my body arches on the way back up, because it's hard, which is common in the handstand push-up, especially when people start going to deficit, I need to still prioritize balance. Obviously, if the body arches, the balance is going to be slightly different. So balance position, everything stacked. Come down and back up. Open up at the top. Whoop. Do a double catch at the top. Made the balance. But that's just because I have to, when I get to the ceiling height, I can't point my toes. So I have to flex the feet at the top. So that knocks me out. I have to do a little bit of a double balance there. So not ideal, but that's the deficit. So that's most people's goals to start with, is to do the floor handstand push-ups. You just need to make sure that you understand what's missing for you. Is it your balance? Is it your strength? Is it your range of motion? Is it the bottom position? Is it the top position? And just pick the stuff that you need to work on. So self-assessment, video yourself from the side, watch someone who's got good handstand push-ups, but remember everyone's position is going to look slightly different depending on flexibility and everything. Yeah, so the question, I don't practice as much as I should. I only practice 2 to 3 times a week, handstand practice. Yeah, like balance work is different for everyone. A lot of people can get away initially for doing like even 1 session a week. I had a lot of people that comes to like my handstand classes, and they'll do 1 session a week, so literally 1 practice per week. But then what happens is they get to a certain level, so they'll make really good progress, but then they'll get to that level and they won't get any better. They'll basically plateau and they don't get any better unless they increase the sessions. So then they increase to 2 sessions a week, and suddenly they're getting progress again. And you'll just keep hitting that, unfortunately. So you'll keep going. So no, you're training 3 times a week. You'll hit that plateau again, and then you're okay. I need to add in another session to the point where you're training 5 or 6 times a week, and then obviously you're training nearly every day. So it's down to how much you want it and how much you want to put it in. But just remember, with your handstand practice, your arm balance practice, it can be a warm up for any of your training. So whether you do CrossFit or running or yoga or bodybuilding or whatever it is, you can just do your balance work before any of that, or you can do it before bed, first thing in the morning. That's the cool thing with it. You don't need equipment. It's just really useful to do whenever you can, so you can fit it in. Don't make it you have to drive somewhere to do it. But again, it depends how much you want to. Okay, let's just do delve into how long have we been? 50 minutes? 40 minutes, come on to 40 minutes. Okay, so I want to make this an hour max. So I want to start going into some 90-degree handstand push-up variations. So I'm feeling tired though, so I'm making excuses, but let's see what happens. So I'm just going to try deficit now. Not deficit, eccentric. So let's just move you back a bit, because I'm going to need a bit more space. Okay, I think that'll work. So I'm just going to try the down now. I'm going to try on the floor as well. So floor 90-degree handstand push-up work is harder than deficit. So having a gap to allow you to scoop the head and shoulders forwards and below your hands helps you to get that scoop back out again, that seesaw effect. So floor is a little bit harder. You must turn the cap around to kind of the peak on the cap for this. Bigger external rotation with my hands now, because it's a harder position and I need to get down and the elbows in more, so I need more strength. So even more external rotation makes it easier, and it also makes it easier to take the shoulders past the hands. I'm not sure I'm going to run out of space, but let's see what happens. So I'm just doing an eccentric to start with. So into a flexed position, so no extension, so not like this from the start, and then shoulders and head come forwards, elbows come in, push forwards till I find the floor. So that's quite aggressive, quite challenging on the wrists and the hands to go to there. I find that I peel up a little bit, so the heel of the palm will lift up as I take the head and shoulders past. So good rest, and then I'm going to just try a partial range. I'm going to come down a little bit, go back up again. Now, partial range I haven't spoken about with the standard handstand push-ups or the pike push-ups, but the easiest way to do it is to have something like a yoga block, and all you do is challenge your range, how deep you can do and how much you can come back up by doing something like this. So if you're a beginner, this is a really good drill to start to play with, to understanding the pathway, understanding what the elbows have to do, the triangle is created between the head and the hands. Then you can flip the block over. I can do the same in a handstand push-up. So it could be here. So any of the drills you can do this with, touch the target, come back up again. So partial range is really, really good. You don't need to use a target, but it's good from a measurable point of view. It can get in the way sometimes. So good rest before I do my 90-degree. Excuse for more coffee. Yeah, with the shoulder mobility work with handstands is obviously really, really common. So you need to be realistic in terms of what that is like. For most people, it's here to start with. Hanging is probably the number one thing I would give, as long as you've got somewhere to hang. So if you don't have anywhere to hang at home, obviously that's not going to work. But hang as much as you can, just passively. It's the quickest way to do it. And just make that part of your warm-up. And then use your handstand practice to help you with your mobility. So don't think shoulder mobility is something that you do completely separate. Try and combine the two, because you need the condition on the hands and the shoulder mobility at the same time. So shoulder mobility is a warm-up. At the start of the session, I showed what I do with the foam roller, hanging on the bar, down dog-like positions, just opening the shoulders up. And if your chest or handstand at the moment needs to look like this, then that's fine. And you can work that shoulder mobility while you're there. Just make sure you're feeling the upper back and shoulders and you're pushing away and not collapsed and not arching through the low back. But I would do that as much as you're doing the shoulder mobility. So you're opening the shoulders and improving your handstand conditioning at the same time. Okay, let's have a go now at partial range handstand, 90-degree handstand push-up. So I'm just going to flirt with the bottom position. I'm going to go down a little bit and then come back up. I'm probably going to straddle a little bit. I'm going to arch a little bit. Don't judge me. Let's see what happens. So start position similar. My legs will part a little bit now, just make it a bit easier. Come forwards. So a bit archy. Sort of done that on purpose to make sure I can get back up. And it's just hard to know how far to go down, how far to come back up, especially when you're not got your hands elevated. When those hands are elevated, it's much easier to get back into that shoulder stand position. And because the shoulder stand position is such like a home position for me, I can just hang in the shoulder position for a couple of seconds and then just push out like a concentric standard handstand push-up. And it's like a segmented 90-degree handstand push-up. Because I've done the eccentric, but then I've come back to shoulder stand and then pushed up. So it is a 90-degree handstand push-up. It's just a bit clunky. Thank you, appreciated. Okay, so I'm just going to take a rest and I'm going to have a go at doing a cleaner 90-degree handstand push-up. So see if I can go all the way down. So all the way down for me is thinking that my toes must just lightly kiss the floor. So if my toes kiss the floor and my head and shoulders are in front of my hands, then I have to be in some sort of straight line. The hips could be piked a little bit, but that would actually make it really hard. So that sort of tells me that I've hit home position, and then it's just seeing if I can get back up with the least amount of arch, but I'm definitely going to arch a little bit. This is the hardest bit, is working out how much rest to have. Okay, so because I'm going to try and make it as clean as possible, I won't talk on this one. If I have it when I'm coaching all the time, is to talk, which is good training. It makes things much harder, but it's not the best for technique. Okay, let's see what happens. So a bit archy to get back up. Won't know 100% until I watch it back. But you can see the scoop of coming back up. But the risk is there when you do arch the body on a handstand push-up is that you just don't want it to fold on itself. If it comes to the point where the legs become too heavy and sort of fall over that cliff edge and are hanging down, that's where you're dragging yourself out. That's what a lot of people do against the wall, and they end up having to pull themselves, drag themselves up the wall, and it actually feels way harder than that. Ooh. Awesome, you have a power rack at home. Yeah, hang daily. Really, really good. Make a massive difference. And then do the active passive scapular work as well, arching scapulars, things like that. Thank you. I really enjoy doing the 90 degree. Like handstand push-ups is probably the thing I enjoy the most. I probably train it the most for that reason. There was a point where I was doing one-arm handstands probably more than the strength stuff when I really wanted to get that 10-second one-arm handstand. And then once I got that, I sort of put the handstand, the one-arm handstand stuff I still do it, but I backed off a little bit on the one arms just because just not as passionate about it. But I like to combine stuff now. So like I like combining one-arm handstand balance work with strength skills, which is much harder. So I've done no one-arm work today. So let's just see if I can get a one-arm handstand on both sides plus a handstand push-up, just to show you how to combine balance work. It doesn't have to be a one-arm handstand. You could just go, I'm going to do a 10-second hold in a two-arm handstand, then go into your handstand push-up or the top of your crow to handstands, put your balance work in. So extra balance work is always a really good thing. So let's just see if I can get, whoa, I can't balance there. So let's go one-arm handstand on right. If I don't touch the wall, let's move. So right is my easy side. So not clean, but I can get away with it. The wall's restricting me. Left side is not happy unless I can warm it up a lot. But like I would count that if I'm doing it with my handstand push-ups. So then I would try and get a handstand push-up, show control at the top. So like that's some fun you can play around with where you're combining balance work plus your strength stuff. But obviously the handstand push-ups are going to suffer a little bit in terms of quality, and definitely the balance work is. Guys, any other questions? I'm getting super tired now, so my demoing is going to go downhill dramatically. My goals are handstand push-up and straddle press handstand. Should I drill towards one before the other or at the same time? My favorite way of doing it, and the way I have majority of my clients doing it, and the way I recommend to do it on my app, is to have your balance work. So you have one session that's handstand balance. You have one session that's handstand push up, so bent arm strength, and one session that's straight arm strength, so press work. So then you have 3 sessions, but the handstand session is your balance, and that can be done before either of the other 2 sessions or by itself. So you can juggle it in that way. So you could do a handstand session followed by a handstand push-up session. Then the next day you could do handstand balance followed by a press handstand session, and then just keep alternating it like that. Now you probably will need some rest days in there as well. So your rest day, you've got a choice. You could either just do your balance, or you could take a complete rest day, just do more flexibility. The trick is to try and get the volume correct for you, and obviously the drills correct, that allows you to stack them in that way. So the hardest thing about when I was programming or doing all my programming for the app initially, I'm still adding stuff all the time because it's really tricky to cover everybody. But what I done was I tried to work out what's the least amount of volume that you can do and still get progress, and allows you then to stack other movements. So then you can do a short balance session that's like 20 minutes, followed by a 20-minute handstand push-up session. So you've only got 40 minutes of work. Now that 40-minute session for somebody might take an hour and 10 minutes. For someone else, it might take half an hour, just because the way they work goes up and down, and there's a lot of like rest as needed between exercises. So do exactly the same for the bent arm session, exactly the same for the straight arm session. You just do a balance session first. So I hope that makes sense, because it's a little bit different for everyone, but that's what I recommend most people do. But if you're only training once or twice a week, that's obviously not going to work, because you need to be training multiple times. So if you're only training once or twice a week, you need a session that's going to be a one-day session. You just repeat that. Because I recommend you should be doing 4 to 6 balance sessions a week, 2 to 4 strength sessions. That's what I've done for years now. I really think that's the sweet spot. I'm a calisthenics beginner. I want to handstand. Any tips? I don't have any equipment. You don't need any equipment for handstands. That's the cool thing with it. Daily practice. Make sure you're warmed up. Make sure you're doing mobility work. So hanging, and then opening the hips up, quad stretch, hamstring stretch, things like that. I've got lots of follow-alongs, free ones on my YouTube. But then I would go into chest to wall handstand, so a conditioning hold, and then kick up and learn a heel pull. So if you're complete beginner, literally those exercises is all you need. So chest to wall handstand, wherever that is, just make sure you're in this position and not collapsed in this position. Make sure you're nice and positive. Ideally, you would be closer to the wall, but only do that when you're ready. Build this up so you can hold here for 45, 60 seconds comfortably without this happening. Make sure only toes are on the wall. So that would be your conditioning hold. If your mobility is absolutely terrible, then obviously prioritize mobility to get into position. But 99% of everyone can get into that position from day one in some way, whether their hands are further away and whether it's a 20-second hold. But just doing it daily will make sure that you increase it enough, progress to get that sort of 45, 60-second comfortable hold. Practice kick-ups, shoulders on top of hands, push the floor away, pick the focal points and make sure that's all stacked, and then practice kicking up to the wall. Ideally, both heels would touch lightly, but realistically, to start with, it's going to look more like this. It might even look like this to start with. Slowly, it will become easier and easier. And then once you're here, practicing the heel pulls, pushing through the fingers, reaching up so you start to come off the wall, go back again, repetitions of that. If you've done those 3 exercises 4 or 5 times a week, you'll learn to handstand really quickly. Just don't spend too much time kicking up in the middle of the room, falling over. The only thing I can think of is, when do I know to move away from the wall? Maybe when I feel confident with the kick-ups, more consistency. I feel I need to get more consistency. Yeah, definitely. So I would just make sure that you become an expert at that one I just showed, the heel pull. So pulling on and off, turn around, do the toe pull, because that's both sides of the freestyle and handstand. And make sure that you can hold those. You're starting to hold those for a few seconds on both sides. Then I would play with kicking up in the middle of the room, but make sure that you're doing enough of the wall drills and the freestanding. So you want to be doing enough of both. You don't want to just go to freestanding and end up trying to kick up 100 times and only catching 1 out of 100. You want to make sure that you're doing enough volume of the wall stuff that you're continually progressing and getting more conditioned, and your balance window is getting bigger and bigger. So the distance you can move in a handstand and not fall down. Most people, when they start, their balance window is this big. So trying to kick up to that little gap is going to be really hard. But if you get to a point where that becomes wider and wider because you're getting very good at moving on and off the wall with control, so you're pulling off the wall, you're not kicking off the wall, then being able to kick up and land in this position and still hold, or kick up and land in this position and still hold, is really important. So when I kick up, I've always got somewhere to kick up because my balance is this big. I can always kick up inside that window. If I have a tiny balance, I'm never going to be able to get that one. I'm going to get it once out of 100 attempts. So making sure you do enough is massive. That makes a big, big difference. Yeah, it's like an easy way to assess it as well. You can see what distance you can play away from the wall on both sides, when you're chest to wall, when you're back to wall. More trucks. Thanks. I'm only doing press workouts now. I'll replace one session with handstand push up. Right, short balance sessions on rest days. Yeah, perfect. But obviously, you just need to prioritize as needed. So if you find that you're not making progress across the board because you're just spreading yourself too thinly, then that truck's going to disappear. So you don't want to spread yourself so thinly that you're not doing enough of one thing. So make sure you're doing enough on everything so that then you start making progress. But again, it's easy to see because you should feel like you're getting stronger on the movements and you're progressing through the progressions. Okay, guys, I've got 3 minutes. Yeah, and being afraid to take your feet off the wall in the chest wall position is totally common. And you just basically, you want to get enough confidence in the position so you can build quality repetitions there. If you practice when you're really scared in the position, which is really, really common, then it will end up looking like this because you're scared of committing to going over. What we want it to look like is that, and I'm confident to go in this position and go to there. So until that happens, then the repetitions aren't going to be very good anyway. So I would still work the other way around, work this way around. You can practice with that other drill by going too far this way and then see the shoulders would come forwards. So that's that same drill bringing me back to handstand. It just means that a lot of the time you're going to be falling down. But the other way to do it is go chest to wall and have someone stand here and then hold their hands and then become another wall. And they can just spot you, and that will help you build confidence as long as you trust the person. But a lot of people still don't feel comfortable with it, so they hold onto the wall too much. Another way is to get two pillars or two walls. I put a video up 3 or 4 days ago where I'm showing I'm balancing between two walls. That's another way of doing it, where you can then go between the walls like that. That works really well, where you can do it between a pull-up bar, have your feet on either side. Yeah, I mean, so having really good, so a lot of people that have really good posture in the position and are confident, have a really good line, you just need to make sure that you've got the conditioning there as well. Because it normally tends, the people that have really good lines tend to be less conditioned in the position, so they might collapse more. So check your position when you go at 0, and then check your position at 30 seconds, at 60 seconds, and see what happens. Thanks, Victor. Have a good day, buddy. So the plan is with these live sessions is to do 1 a week, and I'll just train a different subject. If I get enough, if I put the note up, what's it called, on the community post, I'll put a community post up much earlier. I've put one up anyway for today's and just saying I'm going to be back doing the live sessions, and then I'll ask for questions. If I get enough questions come in before, I won't necessarily train during the session. I would just answer all the questions and demo things as I go, which is probably an easier way to do it. because it's hard to know what things that you guys want to see while I'm training. So stick any comments down in the community post. Reach out on any of the social medias and stuff if you have any requests. I'm also going to do some sessions where I ask you guys to send videos in, and then I can assess you live, because that's really useful to see assessment. It's one thing me demonstrating like pike push-ups and stuff, but I can do a handstand push-up. So if we get someone to send in videos of their pike push-up, but they can't handstand push-up, they're going to show us more of a realistic training level, and I can coach visually and show what I would do with that current level. So I think that would work really well. I've just got to get the logistics and sort out everything to have the time to do that. So yeah. Oh yeah, compulsory. If you're watching the live, you have to subscribe. This helps me out, guys. Yeah, and I've got loads of free content. I've got my coaching on my website. I've got my app. Just trying to help as many of you guys as possible. Let me know any requests for anything. Stick it in the community post. I'm going to sign off now, guys. Have a great day, and I will speak to you soon.